YouTube, what's happening is Wednesday, May 29th. There are 16 MLB games to talk about today, but first, drop a like, subscribe if you haven't done so already, because we are still on fire. We finally got back into the green yesterday. We hit 5 and 4 on the day for 0.89 units. Any profit's profit, we take it. The funny thing about this, though, is of those 4 losses, one of them was the moneyline parlay, and it almost completely fully sold. It went 1 and 6, surprisingly. It was a wild day for moneylines. Either way, the K prop we had for Glass Now hits. We hit a couple other totals and -1.5. So those were nice. Overall, though, we would have had more bets. We lost a couple bets because the Detroit game got postponed to today. Same bet. Screwball still pitching. We're still going with that probably. For the past month, we are still up 6 units for the week, and for the month, 26 units. So we're still on fire right now. We're crushing it. So again, like, subscribe if you haven't. We got 16 games. Let's jump into the first one. All right, first game, we got Pittsburgh and Detroit. We got Jones going up against Screwball, 305 against 225. Currently on the betting markets, we have the Tigers as a -150 favorite on the money line, over under 6.5 with some juice on the over. Looking at the stats here, both teams hit the Nerfy around combined. The chance of this is about 63-ish% chance. Only issue I don't like it is because the runs. Both teams are top 9 in the majors when it comes to scoring runs this week. Pittsburgh's at 5.4 runs a game, Detroit at 5.2 runs a game. So both teams are getting people across the plate. Not good for a Nerfy when you see that. Batting averages, Detroit is 265, which is 7th, and Pittsburgh is 238 for 16th. So we have slight advantage to Detroit when it comes to batting. On the strikeouts is the main thing I like. Pittsburgh is striking out like crazy. 10.8 strikeouts a game in the past week. That puts them 29th in the majors. Meanwhile, Detroit's only at 7.6, which puts them at 8th. The main things I'm looking at are the same things I said in yesterday's video. I am looking at the matchup, and yeah, Jones is a good pitcher. Let's pull it out. 305 with an under 1 whip. That's what you want in a pitcher. That's good. Meanwhile, he's not Screwball. Screwball's good. 72-10 strikeout walk ratio. He gets to go against a 10.8 strikeout per game team in the past week. Yeah, I'm taking Screwball on the K props. And also, I'm taking Detroit. I believe it was let's get that again. It's -150. I'm going to take it. I'm not touching the over. Under 6.5 is a weird number. Has anyone ever bet under 6.5? I don't know. I couldn't do it. So, especially with 2 offenses in the top 10, but the pitchers are good enough. I don't want to bet the over either. So we'll just pass. We'll just root on Screwball to get a whole bunch of strikeouts and for Detroit to get the win. Next game. All right, next up, we got the Cardinals against the Reds. We have Palante with a 6.3 ERA up against Montes with a 4.61 ERA. Currently on the betting markets, we are seeing that the Reds are a slight favorite at -120, over under 9.5. No juice either way in this one. Looking back at the numbers here, we have St. Louis on a 1-game win streak, Cincinnati on a 1-game losing streak. The teams hit about 60-ish% on the Nerfy, not enough for me to really care about that. Runs wise, they're 14th and 13th. They're right next to each other, 4.25 and 4.33 on runs per game. Batting averages, 254 for St. Louis is 9th best. Meanwhile, Cincy's 231, which is 19th best. So we have a slight advantage St. Louis here. Strikeouts wise, St. Louis 8.25, which is 17th. Cincinnati 9.5, which is 25th. So both teams bottom 17 when it comes to strikeouts over the last week. They're swinging more than they should be doing. And we have the pitching matchup, which is kind of weird. We have Palante with his 10 innings pitched, with a 6.3 ERA, a 1.9 whip. Those are terrible numbers. Montes with a 4.61, 1.41, by comparison, is great. But those are also terrible numbers. And we see here that the over-under sitting at 9.5. We have 2 pitchers with not good stats. We have middle-of-the-road offenses here. I'm going to lean with the fact that the teams aren't that good pitching, and we're going to get some runs in this game based on everything I see. With St. Louis being top 10 in batting average too, I'm going to take the over 9.5 in this one. Sidewise, with the pitching matchup the way it is, I would lean Cincinnati, but I can't really back that because both pitchers are bad. I mean, let's be honest, they're just not good. So it's about 41 innings and you're still doing 4.6 with a 1.4. That ain't good. No. So we are going to take the over in this one, hope for some fireworks, take nothing else, and move on to the next game. All right, moving on to Arizona and Texas. We got Nelson with a 603 with a 1.8 whip going up against Dunning with a 443 and a 1.1 whip. Advantage Texas off the jump in pitching. Moving on to the betting markets, we are showing that the Rangers are a minus 135 on the money line, over under 8.5 with some juice on the over. The stats in this one tell us that Arizona's on a 2-game losing streak, Texas on a 2-game winning streak. They're hitting Nerfies about 59% chance in this game between the two teams. Arizona is 27th in runs in the past week at 2.5 a game. Meanwhile, Texas is only a little bit better at 22nd at 3.4. So both teams bottom 8 in the league when it comes to scoring runs in the past week. They're both tied at 27th in batting average, 189 apiece. So both teams cannot hit the ball right now. That is troubling. That's impressive to be that bad. 8 strikeouts a game for Arizona, 7.6 for Texas. That puts you 11th and 8th. They're they're not striking out like other teams are, but they can't even get on base. So they're lucky they can even miss the ball. So in this one, Dunning's a better pitcher. Nelson's numbers are terrible. 34 innings, you're still at a 6 and a 1.1. Come on, you're going to be bad all year. Dunning's at 40. The whip's at 1-1. I'm okay with a 1-1 whip. Ideally, you want below 1. Obviously, I know, but I mean, you can get what you can get. Especially how bad Texas started the year off. Texas seems to be slowly getting back to being better. In this one, with the stats the way they are, the money line is the Rangers minus 135. Neither team can hit the ball. Texas is not even a full run better in this one. They do have a better pitching matchup, but overall, nothing looks good enough for me to bet on. This is going to be a complete pass. Next up, we got the Phillies and the Giants. We got Sanchez with a 3.15 with a 1.4 whip going up against Harrison with a 3.9 and a 1.3 whip. So right now, we don't really have an advantage in the pitching world. The betting markets are currently telling us that the Phillies are a 125 favorite, over under 7.5 with some juice on the over. Stats-wise, we know Philly is on a 3-game losing streak. That's weird for Philly, but it's happening. They are playing San Francisco, who offense is on fire. San Francisco on a 2-game winning streak. Combined Nerfy, you have roughly about a 51-ish% chance to my numbers. That's a pass all day. Philly, 8th in the majors in the past week at 5.3 runs a game. San Fran, 7 runs a game still. That's number 1 in the majors. They've been at that number 1 spot occasionally with KC over the past 2 weeks now. They've just been cooking. They're hot. Batting average, San Fran is also 3rd at 277. Philly is 13th at 245. So we have advantages, San Fran in both fronts here. Philly is 6-8 on strikeouts, which is only 6. And San Fran's 8 and 11, so both teams are no big difference there. Both teams aren't really striking out that much. Numbers here, we don't have much of a matchup difference in pitching. We have a slight advantage in San Fran on runs and batting average, but not much enough to where you're like, oh, they're going to blow them out. Both games have been close. This game should be close too. I don't see a reason based on the stats here. Giants are underdog at home, money line plus. I like that. We like to ride the streaks. And Philly starting a streak, you don't want to start. They've lost 3. You don't want to see that, but they're just like Kansas City. They're the same team right now. They've also lost 3. So in this one, with the pitching matchup being the way it is and the stats the way they are, I am going to take the Giants at home, riding that number 1 offense, and over under 7.5 with both teams still being hot. I'm going to take the over too. We're going to rock it 7.5. We're going to take that as well. Next game. Next up, we got the Dodgers and the Mets. We got Paxton with a 3.49 and a 1.3 whip going against David Peterson. We know nothing about because it's his first game pitching, apparently. So it's a question. It's a newbie. We know nothing. What I do know is when somebody doesn't have any stats and it's their first game of the year, I like to fade them. It has worked out great, unless your name is Paul Skeens. And that one pitcher for the Nationals who came out and just dominated his first game. I can't remember his name either, but he's pretty good too. Outside of that, the odds are the dude's going to get rocked. And he's facing the Dodgers, who in my opinion, they should be able to use this game as a springboard to get their offense back on pace. So that's my opinions. That's my thoughts. Looking at the betting markets, they currently have the Dodgers as only a minus 125 with over under 8.5 with some juice on the over. They won both games of the doubleheader yesterday. Nerfy wise, they're 55.4-ish%, so nothing really stands out there Nerfy wise. They're only getting 2 runs a game. That's still 29th best in the majors. Mets are 4 runs a game at 16th, so they're doubling up. So we have advantage Mets in this one. Dodgers, they're batting 205 for 24th. Mets are batting 212 for 23rd, so no advantage there. Dodgers aren't striking out 7.5 for 7th best. Mets are striking out 11.5 times a game. That's worse than the majors. They are swinging and missing everything. 11.5 of their outs are strikeouts of the 27 they get a game. It's amazing. And now we're going up against Paxton, who isn't a strikeout pitcher. 28 and 28, 3.49 with a 1.43. He's not that great numbers, but Peterson, first game, welcome to the bigs. You get to face the Dodgers and Ohtani and Betts and all them. Good luck. Have fun. So this is strictly going to be based on we're fading a new pitcher. So don't take this bet. I'm going to do it. You shouldn't do it. So I'm going to take the Dodgers on the money line, mainly because I like the number. It's nice 125. I like that. We're fading the pitcher. We're not going to take the over-under just in case this dude comes out and pulls a Paul Skeens part 2 and balls out. So all we're doing is Dodgers money line and move on to the next game. All right, next up, we got Pittsburgh, Detroit, plot 2. It's Paul Skeens pitching, 16 innings, 2.25 with a 1 whip with 21 to 4K to walk ratio. And we don't know who Detroit's sending out because they've not announced it yet. So it's a mystery. It's a ghost, if you will. Looking at the betting markets, because there are lines, and they do have the Pirates at minus 145, over under 7.5 with some juice on the under here. Looking at these numbers here, Skeens is pitching, so you automatically favor that because dude has been on fire. I said last time he pitched, his first 2 outings were against the Cubs, and the Cubs are dreary offensively in both his games. And then he faced the Giants, who were number 1, the hottest offense still. That's how long Giants have been number 1. He still shut them down too. Again, his bullpen has been letting him down after he gets pulled from the game. It's amazing how bad the Pittsburgh bullpen is being for him. Either way, the way this game is going to go, in my opinion, looking at the stats, I don't even have numbers yet because my model goes based off of ESPN putting up lines, and there isn't even lines for this game on ESPN yet. So I know nothing on stats wise. All I have is currently the same thing I said in the first one. They're both in the top 10 offensively. Detroit has a little bit better average, and they're better not striking out. Well, Pittsburgh strikes out more. That doesn't help me in this one. Skeens strikes people out, but 7.6 for Detroit. It's only 8th best. They're not that bad a team when it comes to strikeouts. I'm not going to take a Skeens prop. I know a lot of people are going to take a Skeens K prop today. They're going to do it every time he pitches. I know this. I can't do it. I am, however, going to lean Pittsburgh on the money line because we're getting numbers here at minus 145, but I'm going to do something a little cheeky today. Every time Skeens pitches, his bullpen lets him down. So I am going to take Pittsburgh money line first 5 today. First time I've done this one. We're doing a first 5 money line, and we're going to do Pittsburgh just so we can ride Paul Skeens. I do not trust our bullpen. We're not going to do an over-under, just first 5. Next game. All right, so next up we got Miami and San Diego. We got Garrett with a 5.3 with a 1 whip going up against Darvish with a 3.4 with a 0.99 whip. Betting markets currently have this as the Padres minus 175, over under 7.5 with some juice on the under. Stats on this one is going to be kind of hard. My model has decided all of a sudden to break this morning because let me explain how my model works. It pulls data from 3 different sites. It pulls it from MLB.com, TeamRankings.com, and ESPN. It pulls all 3. If one of those sites is down or they're updating information for the day, it messes my model up. It breaks it completely. And I filmed this video early in the morning, so sometimes that happens. So as of right now, my model is a little busted. So we're going to have to make do with what we got here. So right now we have a bunch of unknowns when it comes to stats. So all I have stat wise is Miami's lost 2 in a row. San Diego's won 3 in a row. Nerfy percent, I do have that. That is about 62-ish% on this one. I do know both teams were struggling to score runs. The under hit in this one yesterday. They're both, I believe it was bottom 27 to 29th in runs. We have 2 pitchers with 1 whips in this one. I do like the under again. 7.5. 135 is heavy juice. I think we're going to pass on that. And I don't know if I trust the Padres that much on a money line. So this game overall is just going to be a full-on pass. Next game. Next up, we got Boston and Baltimore. We have Crawford with a 2.89 and a 1.2 whip against Burns with a 2.6 with a 1.07 whip. So pitching matchup. Great pitching matchup, pretty equal pitching matchup. Betting markets currently are showing Orioles at a minus 190 on the money line. It's pretty high, especially what happened yesterday. Over under 7.5 was a little bit of juice on the under. Looking at the numbers the best we can, we see that the teams combined on the Nerfy side, about a 45-ish% chance at a Nerfy, not enough for me to even think about it, even the other way. So that one's going to be a complete pass. We start looking at runs a game. I can't do the full 7 the past week, but I can do the past 3. In the last 3 games, Baltimore's getting 6 runs a game compared to Boston's 4.3 runs a game. So we have an advantage, Baltimore, even after Boston put it on them yesterday. So we still got that advantage in Baltimore. Now, if we look at batting averages, where's that tab? There's batting averages over the last 3 days. Boston is batting 280 while Baltimore's batting 262. So slight advantage for Boston, but nothing really crazy there as well. And then lastly, I like to know who strikes out. Looking at the last 3 games, we have Baltimore is striking out 11 times a game over the past 3 games. So that's pretty high, especially when you get a nice strikeout pitcher up there. Crawford, I would say both of these pitchers are strikeout pitchers. Baltimore striking out 11 and Boston striking out 10. So I think we're going to have some strikeouts in this one. I might look at, it's crazy, I might look at both of their K props because both teams are striking out so much over the last 3 days that we might have some props we can look at. So we are going to look at the props on both of them. Now, when it comes to the side, I'm not playing Baltimore again. Minus 190 is crazy. I just can't do that. So we're going to skip on that one. Over under, I do lean under 7.5, mainly because of the strikeout possibilities. So we'll look at the props and we'll look at the under 7.5 in this one. Next game. All right, next up, we got Oakland and Tampa Bay. We got Estes with a 7.47 with a 1.3 whip against Pepio with a 3.98 with an under 1 whip. Betting markets currently have this one as the Rays minus 180, over under 7.5, a little bit of juice on the over. Looking at some of the numbers here, we have Oakland 1-game winning streak, Tampa 1-game losing streak. Murphy hits about 57-ish% of the time. Not really worth taking there. Now, yesterday I said this. I said, you got to watch out. Tampa Bay is struggling offensively. There's a reason why they shouldn't be favored. Oakland should come out and do things. Oakland, their pitcher dominated. He came out and just stomped. It was amazing. If it wasn't for the Cubs dude having like a no-no through 7, the Oakland pitcher would have got props yesterday. So either way, looking at the stats, nothing's really changed on the stats too much. Runs a game over the past 3 games, we are seeing that Tampa Bay is at 2.67. They're struggling to score runs. Oakland is also at 2.67. So we have some low scoring affairs ahead of us right here. That is, they're both in the bottom, looks like bottom 7 when it comes to scoring runs here. When it comes to batting averages, we need to look at the last 3 as well. And if you look at the last 3, you're going to see Tampa Bay is second to last. They're getting 165 as a team in the past 3 games, which isn't good when you're playing Oakland too. That doesn't help. So Oakland themselves are not much better. They're 185. So you have the 2 of the 4 worst batting average teams in the league going up against each other. That's not good for an over, now is it? And then lastly, we look at strikeouts. Last 3, we see that Tampa Bay is striking out 7.6 times a game, which actually is top 5. They're doing well. Oakland is in the middle of the pack. They're at 9, so nothing really to worry about strikeout-wise. Looking back at the pitching matchup, S's good numbers. I mean, strikeout numbers, not ERA and whip. Pepio has clear advantage here, but the fact that Tampa Bay is struggling mightily when it comes to scoring, and then Oakland struggling just as much, I am taking the under in this one all day long. The under in this one was under 7.5 or plus 105. I'm going to be taking that. We are not taking a side. 180 for the Rays is wild right now. I know Pepio's pitching, but come on. No, we got to pass on that. So we're going to take the under and move on to the next game. All right, next up, we got Washington and Atlanta. We got Gore with a 304 with a 129 whip. Going up, the score hasn't updated yet, but he's going up against Spencer Schwellenbach, who is a 23-year-old righty out of Saginaw. He is making his debut. So just like the other game, we like to fade pitchers in their debuts. So looking at the betting markets, we see that Braves are 165 with Schwellenbach pitching, over under 8.5, a little bit of juice on the over. I do have a little bit of stats. Nothing on Schwellenbach. First major league game today, so nothing there. But when it comes to stats wise, we're looking about 51% on the Nerfy. That's going to be a pass, especially with a brand new pitcher. And I just don't like that. Gore's a good pitcher. He has good numbers, but other than that, I don't trust rookies. Looking at some other numbers, I like to look at runs a game. Last three, I have Atlanta only getting 4.67 runs a game, and Washington's getting 4.3 runs a game. So both teams are in top 10, 12-ish range when it comes to scoring runs. They're doing better. Batting average wise, when it comes to the last three, we have Atlanta in 278, they're top 5. Washington 297, they're number 3. So two top 5 batting averages going up against Gore and a brand new pitcher, both middle-ish on the runs themselves. I said Atlanta's offense was going to start warming up. Washington warmed up way more than them recently. So looking at strikeouts, last three, we see that Atlanta is 967. They're coming down. They were 30th in strikeouts. They're starting to come back into the pack now, which we'd like to see. And Washington is at 8, so they're even better. So we have advantages Washington in batting average, runs, and strikeouts. And now we have a brand new pitcher for the Braves that we're doing nothing about. And Gore's a great pitcher for Washington. Yet we got Washington, the Braves at minus 165. That makes no sense to me. I'm going to fade the rookie starting his first game, and we're going to take the stats, and we're going to take the better established pitcher, and we're taking Washington on the money line. Next game. Next up, we got Toronto and the White Sox. Happy Alek Manoah Day to all those out there that celebrate. We got Manoah with a 397 and 106 against Flexen with a 569, 137 whip. Currently on the betting markets, we are seeing that the Blue Jays are 175 favorite on the money line, over under 8.5 with some juice on the under. Stats wise, we see that the Blue Jays are on a 2-game winning streak, while the White Sox are on a 7-game losing streak. These two teams hit the Nerfy. There's a 72-ish% chance they hit the Nerfy just based on stats. That sounds great, and normally I would take it until I see we have Manoah pitching on one side and Flexen with a 569 and a 137 pitching on the other side. Can't do it. Pass on that one. Looking at some stats, though, runs per game, we do have Toronto second best in the majors at a 767 right now. They are putting up some good runs in the last 3 games. And we have the White Sox bottom. They're 30. They're tied for 30th, getting 133 runs a game in the past 3 games. So they are struggling to get runs in the past 3 games. On the batting average side, we are seeing that in the last 3, Chicago's only batting 194. They are struggling to hit the ball as well. Meanwhile, Toronto is second. They're batting 300 in the last 3 games. So we have clear advantage in runs for Toronto on runs and batting average. And on strikeouts a game, we see that Toronto is second best in the last 3 games at 567. Meanwhile, the White Sox they're actually not the very bottom. They're in the middle of the pack at 867. They're right about 15th range. So they're not striking out as much, but still massive advantage for Toronto in runs and batting average. And pitching matchup here, and just the numbers here, I'm taking Toronto again on the money line. It worked out yesterday. I took them on the money line. I took them on the run line. I took the over. And Toronto took care of all that, just about all for me. Except for the over, I needed a little bit of help from Chicago. And we have Manoah pitching, who Chicago should help as well. So I'm going to be taking the Toronto money line, that 175, that will go in a parlay. I'm going to be taking the run line again because I'm just going with Toronto's on fire and Chicago's not. And we're going to take the over mainly because we have 2 pitchers that have been known to give up runs. So those are 3 for that game. Next game. All right, next up, we got Kansas City and Minnesota. We got Lugo with a 174 and a .97 whip against Ober with a 433 and a 104 whip. Betting markets currently are showing us that the Twins are a 125 favorite at home. Over under 7.5 with some juice on the under. These teams, Kansas City's on a 3-game losing streak. Minnesota's on a 2-game winning streak. They hit the nerve about 46% of the time. That's a pass all day. Stats wise, we are seeing that Kansas City is scoring 2.67 runs a game. Yes, they are struggling. They're like Philadelphia. They're almost like they're twins right now. They're both struggling, and they're facing the Twins. Funny, pun not intended. And if you look at Minnesota here, Minnesota is getting 4 runs a game, so we have a slight advantage here for Minnesota in runs. Batting average world, we have Kansas City getting a 218 average, while Minnesota's a 223, so nothing stands out there, nothing on that side. And on strikeouts, we see that Minnesota's striking out 8 times a game, while Kansas City's 9 times a game. So again, nothing stands out stats-wise either side. Nothing really stands out. The main thing that stands out here is Lugo's a much better pitcher than Over. The stats don't lie; they're there for themselves. The only thing that stands out is the total and the money line. I'm not taking a side this one. I'm not going to lose 4 straight days for Kansas City, especially when the numbers don't line up. They have fallen off in the past few days, so we're going to leave the side alone. Total wise, over under 7.5. When both teams are at middle of the road and they're kind of struggling a little bit, I like to pass on that too. So this game is going to be an all-around pass. Next game. All right, next up we got Chicago Cubs and the Milwaukee Brewers. We got Shota and his .84 and his .91 whip going up against Wilson with a 286 and a 116. Wilson would have dominating numbers if his opponent did have legendary numbers going on so far in the season. So pitching matchup is amazing so far. Looking at the betting markets, we are seeing that the Cubs are a 135 favorite on the money line, over under 7.5 with some juice on the over. Stats wise, we are seeing the nerfy hits between these teams and their positions at 57% of the chance at the time. That's going to be a pass in that one. Chicago won a game, Milwaukee lost a game. No streaks happening here so far. Stats wise, we look at the runs first. We see in the past 3 games that the Cubs are getting 3.3 runs a game, and while Milwaukee's getting 3 runs a game, so no advantage there. We look at the we look at that batting average world. We see the Cubs are batting .212 in the past 3 games. They're not doing too well. Meanwhile, Milwaukee is batting even worse. They're batting .177 in the past 3 games. So both teams struggling to bat, both teams struggling to score. And when it comes to strikeouts, Milwaukee is striking out 11.67 times a game. That is second worst in the majors. You know who's worse? The Cubs at 12.33. So the bottom 2 teams in strikeouts are having issues, and they're going up against some beast pitchers today. Shota has 58 Ks and 9 walks, and I'm looking at his K props. I'm already doing it because Milwaukee's striking out 11.6 in the last 3 games. They're swinging and everything. Even Wilson, 37 and 17. With the way the Cubs are swinging the bat, I'm going to look at his strikeout props too. It's going to be a prop heavy day for me. I don't usually do this much props, so we're going to do that. We're also going to be looking at this over under of 7.5. I'm liking that under here. I don't know the side. I don't trust the Cubs. I mean, I love the pitcher, but I can't back a team with no offense on both sides. So we're going to skip the side, take the under, K props on both pitchers again, and move on to the next game. All right, next up, we got Cleveland and Colorado. We got Allen with a 4.9 and a 1.46 up against Black with a 4.55 and a 1.3 whip. So not real much difference when it comes to the pitching matchup off the start. Betting markets currently have the Guardians as a 155 money line favorite, over under 10.5 with some over at 130. If you took the over yesterday, you watched a football game, because before I fell asleep, it was 13-7. I don't know if that was the final or not, but that's what I saw when I passed out. So that was one wild game here. So stats wise, we see that Cleveland's won 1 game, Colorado's lost 1 game. That stands out there. Nerfy's at 50%. We passed on that. Looking at some stats, bring the pitchers back up over here. When it comes to runs a game, no surprise here that Colorado is going to be 6.67. Meanwhile, Cleveland is going to be 8 runs a game. Happens when you put up a 13 and a 7 spot for each team. So that's first and fourth in the majors in the past 3 games. And batting average wise, we see that the best team, the Cleveland's batting .276. Colorado is at .245. So slight advantage Cleveland there. Strikeout wise, we are seeing Cleveland at 6.67. That's 4th best. Colorado is 3rd worst. They're way down here, 28th at 11 strikeouts a game, tied with a couple other teams. Now we got the going up against Allen pitching, and you got a team swinging everything. We might have another K prop we're looking at. It's going to be a heavy strikeout prop day, I swear, because anytime we got a team striking out this much, and we got a pitcher that likes to strike people out, 50 to 18 walk, I'm going to look at his K props and see what happens here. So I can't justify taking a side in this one. Wrong game. Side in this one. The only thing I really see here is, yeah, the Guardians are favored, but the numbers are too even, so I can't do a side. Nothing really stands out. Over under sounds good. They're both scoring runs. Usually when you have a super pop off of runs, they kind of reel it back the next game, though. That bothers me some too. So, but both teams are on fire. This one, I hate to do this. We're going to leave the money line alone. We're going to leave the total alone. we're gonna take the pitch. We're gonna take Logan's K props. That's all we're gonna do. Logan's K props. See if you can shut down Colorado's offense a little bit. Just get enough strikeouts to get out of there, and that's it for this one. Move on to the next game. All right, next up, I've got the Yankees and the Angels. We'll get Gill with a 211 with a 101 against Anderson with a 252 and a 106. Not much difference on the pitching side there. Betting markets currently have the Yankees as a minus 200, over under 8.5 with some juice on the under. Let's looking at some stats here. Yankees on a 2-game losing streak. Angels obviously won yesterday. Nerfy's about a 48-ish% chance. We're going to pass on that one. Looking at some stats, runs per game. The Yankees are currently sitting right at 3 runs a game. Meanwhile, the Angels are currently sitting at 3.67 runs a game over the last 3 games. So we have advantage Angels a little bit, not much of one to worry about. Batting averages. We have the Yankees are currently clocking in a 250 batting average. Meanwhile, the Angels are 263. Slight advantage Angels again. Happens. And then we look at the strikeouts here. I see that the Angels are striking out 8.67 in the last few games. Meanwhile, New York is striking out 11 times the past few games. We have Anderson, not really a strikeout guy. Not really want to look at a K prop here. So this one, I don't know. I don't like a side in this one. Nothing is really standing out. I don't see. So the pitching match is the same. We have slight advantages LA when it comes to the numbers. I don't see why 200 is the number here. I don't like that. Over under. I don't like these numbers either. With the way the numbers are, they're both struggling a little bit. We're going to pass on the side, pass on the total. This entire game is going to be a pass overall. Next game. Our last game, we got Houston and Seattle. We got Verlander and his 3.6 with a 1.2 against Kirby with a 4.3 and a 1.03 whip. Betting markets currently show us that actually it's a straight pick 'em now. Over under 7.5, a little bit of juice on the under in this one. Stats wise, Houston's lost 2 in a row. Seattle has won 3 in a row. Seattle's starting to get a streak going of winning. We like to see that. They're hitting Nerfy about 51%, so that's nothing to talk about. Looking at the stats, we see that when it comes to runs per game, Houston is clocking in at a nice 3 runs a game. Meanwhile, Seattle is at 5.3 a game. So we have an advantage for Seattle by a couple runs here. So definite advantage there. Batting averages, we see that Seattle's batting 240 while Houston is batting 224. Slight advantage for Seattle. And strikeouts, which is something that's been mattering in this one. Looking at the K prop, especially for Kirby. And we know Verlander can do it too when he wants to. We see that Seattle is striking out 8.3 times a game. Meanwhile, Houston is striking out 8 times a game. So nothing really stands out there. Both in the top 15. They're not striking out as much as you think they would. So this one's a little harder to call with the way the stats are. I love Kirby stats. His ERA is a little high, but other than that, I love the K to walk ratio. The teams being a pick 'em is what's hard because the stats are leaning Seattle. I don't want to go against Verlander though. You just don't want to do that. But the way this is going, the stats are the stats. We take the numbers, we rock with them, we ride with them. We're going to take Seattle on the money line at minus 110. We're not going to touch the over-under. We're not going to touch any props. So just Seattle money line, and that's it. That's it. All 16 games broken down, stats given out, thoughts, opinions, and whatnot. Drop a like, subscribe if you haven't. Let me know if you're taking, fading, what have you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.